And Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell will be speaking at the Kansas City Fed's Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium. That will be next Friday. Powell is expected to deliver a keynote address on the economic outlook. That's on the 23rd of August at this three-day symposium. The Fed chair has had a tradition of participating in these annual events, and this year's event comes ahead of the crucial September policy, where the Fed is widely expected to cut borrowing costs. Even as the economists price in a 25 BPS rate cut during the September 17 to 18 FOMC meet, some projections from Citigroup and JP Morgan Chase are factoring in a larger 50 BPS adjustment.
Wages and prices. The median projection.
All right, and for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Andrew Freris, CEO, Ecognosis Advisory Limited. He's joining us from Hong Kong. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Now, I want to start by asking you, how do you assess the importance of the Fed speech on the 23rd?
Actually, I'm totally bored, I'm afraid, with that. Jackson Hole every year has the same effect. In other words, Powell, by necessity, cannot tell us he's going to cut or he's not going to cut. It will be some kind of a blah, blah explanation. The markets are going to interpret it in whichever way, and then we're going to have big disappointments. I'm sorry, I'm being incredibly cynical here because I've seen it long enough for me not to stay up at night to find out what he's going to say. My position is very, very simple. May I continue?
Yes, please, sir, absolutely.
Okay, my position is that the Fed is not going to cut interest rates before Christmas. In other words, I don't see any cut in September. Then we're very near the election. And then after that, we'll have to see what the data are saying. And what the data are saying is terribly simple. The Fed has two targets. It has inflation at 2%, and it has a stable labor market. Inflation is not anywhere near 2%. The CPI core, the PCE, all of them are above 2%. So the Fed is not hitting its target. So if it decides to cut, it tells us, forget what I'm telling you. Okay, the 3% or the 2.5% is the new modern 2%. The second point is the labor market. Unemployment has been going up slowly, but the non-farm payrolls have been completely all over the place. Up, down, big, small, no trend in there. So if I was to take that, the American economy is weak. And finally, for me, that was the absolute joke of all it.
All right.
Retail sales.
Right,
You want to stop?
I'm sorry, I just want to interject here, sir. Let's just entertain if the Fed does cut rates by 50 basis points. What happens then? How do you see markets reacting to those moves in September then? If that does happen.
Since I don't expect them to cut by 50 basis points, I will give you a hypothetical answer. If it cuts, it's going to be taken badly. It will say, look, the bad state of the economy, if the Fed decides to cut by 50 basis points, is going to be completely counterproductive. We're going to have another Monday the 5th case. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about that because the markets are also completely all over the place because the Fed has been misleading them. Not purposefully, okay, but it has been literally all over the place.
All right. Well, Mr. Freris, you've pretty much summed it up. Thank you so much for joining us on World Business Watch. Always a pleasure to have you. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.